Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. I'm your host for this week, Ashwin. I'm joined by DJ. Unfortunately, again, as usual, it's just the two of us because it is, I think, 4:35 in the morning at the time of recording this in Singapore. But it is our favorite time of the year. It's IPL season. It's alive and kicking and back. But DJ, let me specifically ask you, it's a little strange saying, like, we just had this, right? In April, May, we had IPL season. Then, of course, we've talked about the hiatus. And so we continued on from the 30th match of the season, but it feels like the season restarted. We're both, for those of you watching on YouTube, you see us both decked out in our Delhi Capitals jerseys, for which we owe a shout out to the DC Toli for getting us hooked up with those. But DJ, how are you feeling, man? Great first week of the IPL, right? We have a lot to cover.
Yeah, it's been a great first week. It feels a little bit strange that most teams have already played 10 matches. I think only Rajasthan Royals and the Sunrisers Hyderabad have played 9 matches, who are playing on Monday when this episode should go out. Yeah, it feels like it started, but it's already getting to the end. We're getting to the business end of the tournament. Sunrisers Hyderabad is already unable to qualify, so you've already had the first casualty.
Is that done mathematically? I was trying to do that.
Yeah,
myself. Okay,
they're done mathematically, but there are no qualifiers yet. So there's a non-qualifier at this point. But man, it's weird. It's weird. It's like a IPL of 2 parts. And yeah, it's been some great cricket this week. That is the main thing, right? The thing that we love about the IPL is, okay, it's got the drama around it and all the hype around it. But the quality of cricket, man, this week has been excellent. We talked only about the first game, right, after the restart, game 30. So we've got a lot of games to go through since then. And it's going to be pretty full on. Loving it.
Yeah, very, very well said. So lots to cover. We normally, for those of you who've listened to our show for a while, thank you for being loyal listeners. But usually, recently during the IPL, we've been doing 2 episodes a week with a midweek episode. This week, this time of year, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that. Just, life and our day jobs get in the way, unfortunately. So we're going to be doing 1 episode a week. So this is our first one since the restart. I'm going to try to see how I can stay disciplined to make sure we cover 10 episodes worth of stuff, while also getting into enough depth, but also not taking 2 hours of your guys' time. But
and not
DJ,
doing ball by ball like we do with test matches.
Not doing ball by ball like we do. That was phenomenal and great to relive. And honestly, some of our most listened to episodes. So it sounds like our listeners enjoy that too. But let's start with the points table, DJ. Fairly similar look to the pre-restart points table, right? Hyderabad at the bottom. CSK and Delhi up at the top. Again, a lot of questions about how this exact same CSK side as last year seems to have found unbelievably form. Delhi, we were all a little bit nervous about, whether they'd continue the momentum, but so far so good. And RCB, fallen a tiny bit behind, but really you've got 2-3 teams at the top, Hyderabad at the bottom, like you said, out, and then this mid-table tussle between KKR, Punjab, Rajasthan, and Mumbai, right? Do you see any major surprises now going into the kind of final? What do we have? 16, 17 games of the group season left?
I mean, we're going to see at least one surprise, right? You've got KKR, Punjab, Rajasthan, MI. Rajasthan have a game in hand. They could go into the 4th position at the end of Monday, right? It's going to be, I think, the top 3, as I said last week, are starting to pull away, right? So you've got CSK, DC, RCB probably need 1 win out of their next few games, maybe 2 to be absolutely safe. But that last spot, man, like KKR were down and out for the count. They've had a pretty surprising run. Mumbai Indians, where I think I asked before the tournament started who's going to win, and people were upset I didn't put Mumbai Indians in the option because I'd gone by the order of the table. And they were like, how can you not put a 5-time champion? I was like, it has nothing to do with this year.
You'd gotten in the order of the table, but you were also being a little bit like, I'll doing it a little bit on purpose. Let's be honest.
It was
fun. Which I love. I'm here for it. But anyway.
It was fun. But I was just like, the last 5 times they've won, the 5-time champions, has nothing to do with this year. And they have looked ragged this year, right? And we talked about it in the last episode as well. But I'm sure we'll get into all of it. I think there will be... I think the wild card in all of this is Punjab, man. I don't know what. They win games from nowhere. They lose games that should be sealed. I think the joker in the pack is this PBKS team, which used to be called Kings 11 Punjab. They must be the most frustrating team to support. And we say that as Delhi Capitals fans and being Delhi Daredevils fans, having watched our team melt down. And also, RCB fans, I'm sure, have a better time of it than these guys. These guys have had a bloody roller coaster, man. Like, last few years has been crazy under Rahul's captaincy for PBKS fans.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, Punjab is sitting out of the 10 matches played with 4 wins and 6 losses, and it could easily have been 6 wins, probably even 7. If you think about like matches that were in their control, and 7 wins is 14 points at this point. The points table looks completely different. But let's quickly summarize, DJ. I tried to summarize what I saw from the first week before we get into some of the match by match, right? And the points table reflects this. CSK, 3 wins out of 3. Just picked up right where they left off, right? Delhi, 2 wins out of 2. So pretty exciting. On the opposite side, Hyderabad, no wins from their 2 matches. So that they're eliminated. Mumbai, 0 wins from their 3 matches, which is why they're languishing in second from the bottom. And we'll talk through some of their games. And then kind of in the middle, RCB, it was really interestingly poised. Again, we're recording this on the end of the doubleheader on Sunday. It was very interestingly poised for the final game of the Sunday match. RCB and Mumbai had both lost both their games. So both come in on 0 out of 2. And then they faced off. Virat versus Rohit. A lot of excitement, a lot of drama, all the things you want to imagine. And of course, RCB came out victorious. So Kohli gets to leave the restart, first week of the restart, feeling, okay, 1 win out of 3. We're still fighting. We've got our momentum. Rohit gets to leave the restart, seeing 0 wins out of 3. And then in between, KKR has actually looked pretty good. We'll talk about their games with 2 wins out of the 3, and could have actually had the third, with Chennai just finding a win at the end. Rajasthan 1-1, Punjab 1-1. So shockingly consistent, actually, I would say, compared to the first half of the season, given a league that has seen so many ups and downs. And again, this is where we say the ups and downs do exist for a team like Mumbai, who's maybe the best on paper side still in this IPL and the most decorated. But DJ, if I told you CSK and Delhi would be undefeated in the first week coming back, and Mumbai wouldn't have picked up a single win, that would be hard. That would be a hard claim to back, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you would expect the Mumbai guys to fire up. You'd seen them just starting to hit their stride before the IPL went into the hiatus with the Kieran Pollard assault on the Chennai Super Kings, right? So, and Mumbai is known as a team that when it's down and out and you've counted them as people who aren't going to qualify, to come from nowhere. You may remember the Aditya 36 even now against the Rajasthan Royals, right? Like swinging the ball away, qualifying I think in 14.3 balls. Rahul Dravid throwing his cap on the ground. But that's the spirit that the Mumbai team brings, and man, they're going to need to bring all of it to the remainder of this IPL league stage, because they are in a real scrap. They're in a dogfight for that 3rd and 4th spot at the moment. But for me, actually, the surprise of this week, Ashwin, has been KKR. Right? And I'm sure we'll get into it, but I mean, they've looked good.
2 solid wins, and honestly, we're right on the edge of getting that third before some Ravindra Jadeja heroic shot at the end. So, all right, let's get into them. I'm gonna, DJ, you'll see me try to keep us on pace and focus more on the matches that were exciting. No, I'm gonna try to dig deeper into the matches that were exciting and gloss over the matches that weren't. But the first one, which, we've talked about why it's called El Clasico, etc. Pretty interesting choice, of course, from the BCCI to have the first match, because it wasn't the last match that got cancelled. Obviously, they redid the schedule, and Chennai versus Mumbai for the first match. Of course, we know Chennai undefeated so far. But talk me through this. Chennai is 30 for 4 at one point, and Rayudu has been retired hurt, so effectively 30 for 5, right?
We've talked about this game, no? Last week.
Oh man, it's all a blur for me. Okay.
There was 7 for 3. Gaikwad got 88.
Yeah. Okay. We talked about this game. Saves me some time. Ignore me. For those of you who do want to hear the deep dive, go back an episode. And
this is the level of memory I have to deal with these two kids.
With both of us. I genuinely don't remember that we talked about this game. But
super. Excellent.
So Chennai started the season by going 1 up. You're right. We did talk about this game. Let's talk about Monday's game then. KKR versus RCB. A bizarre start. Again, we talked about RCB near the top of the table, etc. RCB just has this ability to, despite looking good, come up with these ridiculous sub 100 scores and cause all the conversation, etc. So, of course, they got 92 all out. Varun Chakravarti looked pretty good. Honestly, every bowler looked good. They made Andre Russell look great, 3 for 9 in that spell. But basically, 92 all out. Nobody stood up. And then maybe the quickest chase, right? Like 94 for 1, but effectively 94 for 0 because Gill got out right at the end. So the only the two openers needed to make runs. Talk me through that. What is Virat Kohli going through? Drama in the India camp. He's just said he's going to step down as RCB captain coming out of the end of the season. He's talked about the end of his T20 captaincy. And then they come out in their first match while sitting pretty solidly in the top 3 in the table and get 92 all out. What is Virat doing? Is he cowering in a corner in the dressing room? Is he yelling and screaming and throwing things? What's the vibe?
I mean, I'm sure when he gets out and everyone's following him, he is probably pretty pissed off. But he seemed relaxed at the next toss. He was just like, you just need to forget about it. But you have to remember, he's gone through a few of these by now, right? We've been 36 all out. He's been 78 all out at Headingley. He's been part of the 49 all out for RCB. 92 all out is not a bad performance.
Actually, pretty good when you say those two scores. Yeah.
Sorry, no, I don't want to be facetious to RCB fans, guys, but I mean, it's just one of those days. It was 45 minutes of bad cricket. KKR bowled well, but for me, the takeaway from this game was not the up and down for the RCB. Takeaway from this game was Venkatesh Iyer. Man, I saw that guy bad. KKR.
Yeah, also bowls it apparently. I saw him bowl his first over.
He's an all-rounder in fantasy, 6 points.
Good to know. Pick. I never thought about him. So anyway, the only Iyer I pick is the guy who wears blue and red in my fantasy team. But yeah, very interesting, right? 94 for 1, not just a good knock from Venkatesh Iyer, but so new opening partner for Shubman Gill, but Gill also looked really good. And then again, as I mentioned, Russell looked good with the ball, but now he looks iffy given his injury status, etc. And Varun Chakravarti. But honestly, let's give some bonus points to Owen Morgan as well. Quality captain. We've seen a little bit of a change in KKR's fortunes since DK chose to step down and Morgan stepped in. But overall, great start to the campaign for KKR. And then we moved on to probably what's been the most thrilling finish. Thrilling if you're a Rajasthan fan, less thrilling if you're Punjab. But Punjab took on Rajasthan, and Rajasthan batted first, put on 185. So actually a pretty good score. They were playing in Dubai, like good knocks from everybody. They had Evan Lewis up at the top of the order as their new opener. Jaiswal looked good, all just missed out on a 50. Livingston had a nice little cameo. Lomror actually looked the best, 43 runs off 17 balls, just outstanding.
Taking Adil Rashid apart.
Yeah, there was a question out there as to why Rashid hasn't played in the IPL before, and I know you were. I think
we answered it.
You were enjoying that a little bit, but I mean,
Jaiswal and Lomror just tearing into.
Not Rashid. For 35 in 3 overs, didn't even finish his spell. But Rajasthan ends up at 185. DJ, Punjab is absolutely cruising in this chase. Mayank makes a magnificent 50. Rahul, you were already laughing at this one. Rahul falls just short of a 50, but by the time the openers are out, it's 126 for 2 at the end of the 13th over. So let me do this math quickly. You have 7 overs left, which is 42 balls. You have 60 runs to make. 8 wickets in hand, 60 off 42 in a T20. You're shut. This is like turn off the TV and go do something else territory. It's done. You have Markram, Gale, Markram, Puran, Huda, Allen, a ton of batting to come, right?
Yeah, you don't even need to go that far. They needed 8 of the last 2 overs.
No. I was saying, so we're getting...
When the openers got out.
Yeah, when the openers got out, still. Yeah. 100 plus opening partnership.
Yeah.
126
I turned off the television. I was like, okay, I mean, you've got Mayank and you've got Rahul, both India players, both fantastic IPL players. They cannot muck this up again. It's not they didn't have Gale. It was his birthday and they didn't play him.
Yeah.
So that was one surprise. And the second thing was Sanju Samson actually didn't score anything in the first innings.
I know. I made that prediction, man. I was ready for it.
Anyway. And I captained him based on your prediction.
Yeah, same. Me too. So at least
4 runs or something.
At least we both got in trouble for it.
But I mean, with 60 to get a 42 with that lineup, the pitch was doing nothing. It should have just been an easy stroll home for this team.
It should have. So then they got down to 32 needed off 24, which is 8 runs and over. Still 8 wickets in hand. Mustafizur, who's been outstanding on and off, ends up giving a 14 run over. So now we're down to 18 runs needed of 18 balls, run a ball. And Aiden Markram hits a great 6. Basically Chris Morris fell apart completely here. Give 47 off his 4 overs. Most expensive man, yada, yada, all that. But it's all, like you said with Bangalore, not the first time we've seen him do this. He will come back, I'm sure. Ended up getting dropped out of this game. gives a 10-run over. So now we're at the point where you're saying, okay, 8 runs needed, 12 balls. This is done. Mustafiz redeems himself, bowls a magnificent over, gives away 4 runs. Okay, good. But that's par, right? You need 8 runs in 2 overs, 4 runs. Cool. You could make 4 of the next over. And then Karthik Tyagi comes in. DJ, I don't know if you remember how that over came down, but I would love for you to walk me through kind of your reactions, right? You still have 8 wickets in hand. You have 2 guys batting on 25 plus. Markram's on 25, Pooran's on 32. What happened?
I mean, I'm sure people have watched this game. It feels like a lifetime ago, but Pooran gets out and then Huda comes in. He misses a couple of balls. Tyagi misses a couple of balls. It was just pressure.
Yeah.
They didn't manage to get even like the 3 runs to get to a super over. And this is a team, I mean, like Punjab, boss, if you think of the last 2 years, there was that first game super over bowled by Stoinis, which was a game that Punjab had won. I think Mayank was batting in the last over in that game when Stoinis came on to bowl. They managed to lose that game. There was a double super over game against Mumbai that they managed to win from nowhere last year. This year, they've crumbled a couple of times. They crumbled last year after Rahul got out. It's just this team... They're the Punjab chokers, boss. There is no other word for it.
The chokers 11 Punjab.
Yeah, chokers 11 Punjab. It's just like you've got to the finish line. You've got 1 foot along, out, like on the other side, and then you decide to just chill. It's just absurd. You're 2 shots away from winning. What is Pooran doing? Try to glide that ball to third man, boss. Just smash it out of the park, which is what you're good at. It's just poor, and that comes back to why Rahul bats like that, no? Why Rahul and Mayank bat like that? Why they bat conservatively? Because his team has no finishers. And frankly, I don't know how KL Rahul is going to keep his captaincy of this team. Because, I don't know, like, they're completely unreliable. Which is why I said they're the chokers in the pack.
Yeah, we talked about
I
this.
said jokers in the pack, but now they're chokers in the pack.
There you go. We talked about this with the mega auction coming up, right? And my point of view was, I think they're going to be in the market to buy a new captain, because they're going to probably shake up the team the most.
Well, they had Ashwin and they gave it to us, to Delhi.
Yeah. I mean, nothing has worked for them, right? Sometimes it just happens. Sometimes franchises work and find results when they don't deserve them, arguably. And other times franchises should be getting results and it hasn't worked. But Karthik Tyagi, absolutely magnificent, right? He's given 28 runs off his first 3 overs. He comes in to given the responsibility to bowl the 20th and dot 1 wicket, dot wicket, dot. He has 3 runs to defend for a super over, 4 for a win, and gives 1 run, picks up 2 wickets. Absolutely magnificent. Gutted for the Punjab fans, of course, but well deserved by Rajasthan to hold their own, even when you have 3 runs to defend in the 20th over. Just outstanding.
And how good and how bad do you feel actually for Arshdeep Singh? Fifer.
Oh yeah,
in this game.
Yeah,
in the first innings.
How often does it happen that you bowl unbelievably well, pick up a 5-fer, restrict the opposition to 185 after there's some massive hitters? And honestly, nobody else really did great. Shami did well, actually, threw 3 wickets. But then Porel was very expensive. Huda got 2 overs, got completely hit out of the park. So, and of course, we talked about Adil Rashid, but 5 wickets for Arshdeep Singh.
Yeah, and I think he came on only in the 11th over or something. So, fantastic from the youngster, man. And really good. I picked the wrong youngster again. Yeah. I picked up Sakaria instead of Arshdeep. So,
but hey, picked up right where he left off. He did have a great first half of the season, and coming to the UAE and continuing on, just doing it great. So, with that, I'm going to keep powering through. The next game was very much kind of the opposite, where Hyderabad versus Delhi. Delhi looked great. I mean, finished it off with 2.5 overs to spare. Just one-sided, an 8-wicket victory. I mean, maybe I'm being a little harsh, but 134 in the Dubai stadium. Nobody really looked good, right? Warner failed, and of course, I picked him as my captain. No, vice captain, I think.
Same. I picked him as captain, dude. We need to stop hanging out.
Why do we pick? We should never pick against like non-Delhi players when Delhi playing. That's the first thing. Because when Warner gets out, I'm happy, but then I'm suddenly deflated that I got bad points in fantasy. So anyway, I won't go through all the details. 134, pretty comfortable chase. Dhawan doing what Dhawan does best, anchoring a chase. Batting at 113. Shreyas Iyer looked outstanding. Great to see him come back, kind of our former skipper. I mean, he was still only batted at 115, but that's what the game demanded. And Rishabh Pant, it feels like it has been a while since we saw him look really good, but hitting some great shots, couple sixes, 3 boundaries, made 35 off 21. And Iyer and Pant, 3 and 4, former captain and current captain, guided the team over the finish line. But I want to talk about what we missed with Anrik Nokia from a quick bowling standpoint. Delhi looks very incredibly balanced. And again, our listeners know we're going to be biased. So put a grain of salt on anything we say because we're big fans wearing the jerseys. But Nokia 4 overs, 2 for 12, right? Rabada was expensive a little bit, but again, picked up 3. And we've said this fast bowlers hunt in pairs. The side looks just different, and no discredit to Chris Wokes and Tom Curran, who played the first half of the season. But this guy was consistently 149, 150, 151, 147, just very fast bowling, great accurate bowling. How important is the Rabada-Nokia pair to this Delhi side?
Pretty good, man. It gives you the thrill of speed, no? That's what we're all about on this show. But anyway, it was just fantastic to watch, man. The Rabbu and Nokia jodi was just something else. The significant thing for Delhi fans actually in this game was Marcus Stoinis going off.
Let's talk about that. Limped off after one and a bit overs and didn't play any part with the bat as well.
I don't mind it actually in a way. Yeah, okay. But I mean, I feel bad for him because he's hurt and stuff. But I don't mind him not bowling because Pant seems obliged to give him an over every game, which he doesn't need to. Why would you need to bowl Stoinis in those circumstances? And it resulted in this. Now you've got Lalit Yadav playing instead, which he doesn't get a bowl. So I don't know what photos Stoinis has of Pant.
No, but Yadav can bowl.
Yeah, of course he can, but Yadav didn't bowl in the game he played.
Right, but he didn't need to because we won. But in the question mark for most skippers, and Kohli talks about this in the India setup, is it too risky to not have a sixth bowling option? Right? Even for KKR, when Russell looked like he was going to get injured, Venkatesh Iyer bowled an over. Right? Now, he probably won't bowl often. He's not the best bowler, but you have to. Do you want to have the option for somebody to bowl? And that's arguably why Lalit Yadav made it, is because he can bowl.
Ahead of Sam Billings or someone. And I agree with that. I just think that Stoinis should not be bowling if we don't need him to be bowling.
I agree.
That's the point that I
ideally he bats somewhere in the top order and bowls only if somebody's having a very
and I hope he gets well because he is a big hitter, man, down the order, and we need that firepower. So it'd be good for him to get well and make his way back into the team.
Right. We're going to talk about one more match and then we'll take a quick break. But following that outstanding Delhi victory, Mumbai played KKR. And again, Mumbai is this team now needing a win, needing some momentum under their belt. And KKR is a team who has started to find momentum, right? Between Owen Morgan and, of course, the bowlers we talked about in the last game. And, sort of a familiar tale, if you will, right? With the Mumbai Indians, this has been the story of their season, right? And again, DJ, quickly on the scoreboard, the openers both did great, put up 78. Rohit made 33. De Kock ended up with 55. This Mumbai Indians, they ended up with 155 off 20 overs. So arguably, short, and especially when you're 80 in the first 10, you want to go for 170, 180. Talk to me about the Mumbai Indians middle order. Because again, on paper, as we've talked about the T20 World Cup, etc., we've said in fluctuating order, but Surya Kumar Yadav, Ishan Kishan, Kyron Pollard, Krunal Pandya, Hardik Pandya, right? Hardik didn't play a little, Saurabh Tiwari played, etc. But if that's the 5 batters from 3 through 7, on paper, it's magnificent. And yet, kind of as the first half of the season was trailing off, going into the second half has started, none of the guys have found the kind of form that they've had in the past. So is there something going on with the Mumbai Indians middle order? Is it just that unfortunate that they're all hitting a bit of a lean patch at once? But it's tough to see Kishan and Yadav not batting well, right?
Yeah, and they've looked out of sorts, out of confidence. They played some weird shots. I mean, even today when Yadav was dismissed against RCB, it was a strange shot for Yadav to be playing. It seemed to have reached quite a wide ball, which he would have, if he's batting well and he's confident, he would have just let that go. But you have to remember, all of these guys, they play high risk, high reward games, right? Like Kishan, Sky, even Sky, with all his flick shots in the air. When they come off, they look spectacular. But it's a high risk game, and he's very good at playing that high risk game. The amazing part about Sky is that he's so consistent in getting those runs while playing those risky shots. Same with Kishan. Pollard hasn't fired, but Pollard fires occasionally for Mumbai. Their big strength last year was Sky, Ishan Kishan, Hardik Pandya, Krunal Pandya, just one after the other. They just kept coming, and Krunal has had a huge tail off in the last couple of seasons. He's sort of even fallen out of the reckoning for the India team. His brother Hardik has had fitness issues. He's not quite the same hitter. Maybe we're preserving him a bit for the India team again. Kishan had a breakthrough season last year. I thought he was the man of the tournament last year, but just not quite back to that standard, and that will be their worry. It's not a different team. It's just that the players aren't doing what they were doing last year. So they need to get their batsmen firing quickly, or they need to change their middle order, because that is their worry. It hasn't been scoring runs for them.
Yeah, I mean, and very interesting. Obviously, we said they're languishing kind of near the bottom of the table. The one other person, so KKR chased it down with ease, 5 overs almost to spare. Rahul Tripathi looked good, batting at 3, made a glorious 74. Venkatesh Iyer did get that 50, so that's 2 great knocks back to back. So kudos to him. You know, you don't get a lot of opportunities in the IPL, and when you do, you have to latch onto them. So really, really good. Jasprit Bumrah. 3 wickets. It's very interesting because I haven't historically, just looking from the fantasy cricket lens, I haven't historically picked him a lot because teams just usually look to play him out, and he ends up getting good economy rate, but doesn't get a ton of wickets. It's been great to see, right? We saw him fired up kind of coming out of the last tests in England, and now he's carried some of that momentum through to this Mumbai side. So does he, if he, with Krunal not looking great, but with Bumrah looking good, does he add that extra bit of fire that Mumbai needs to kind of dig their way out of this hole?
Yeah, Bumrah was fired up. You saw him bowl, I think, Shubman Gill with a slower ball, and again, Bumrah letting go of emotion is a rare sight. So clearly the Mumbai Indians are now feeling the pressure. They're feeling the lack of a win, and it's beginning to tell on their big players. And when the chips are down, they've turned to their big players. Bumrah, in this case, took 3 wickets, but he also took punishment, right? He took punishment from, who was it in the first game? That Ruturaj Gaikwad, who was sweeping him. Now, Iyer, I mean, man, I actually think Iyer's a dark horse for the World T20. He's like he's a 6'4" guy, got huge reach, smashes the spinners, can hit the quicks. He's kind of, okay, maybe this is a big build up for him, but I feel a bit like he's India's answer to Chris Gayle, man. He's got that build, right?
Wow, that is a big.
But he's got those shots as well.
Yeah.
He has the swivel pull shot and the straight. So he's got the short ball covered. He's got the straight shot covered, and he plays the spinners well. And man, I also just love the fact that he bats without a cap. That's just a statement. It's just like, I'm not wearing a cap. I don't need a cap, and like, he's constantly pushing his hair back. It's just, I'm really enjoying this guy bat. Varun said that he's a chartered accountant, or he was studying to be a chartered accountant, has an MBA in finance. Man, he's yeah.
Hey, there's another guy.
This is better.
We're going to take a quick break, but there's another guy who batted without a cap a couple of times. He's, of course, one of your favorites. But he didn't, I mean, it was hard because he didn't really last more than 4 or 5 balls in any knock. So anyway, with that,
I'll send you a few hours of videos from the 2010s then.
That's forever ago. We're 2021 now, man. Live in the present. But anyway, our loyal listeners will know who I'm taking a jab at. But we're going to take a quick break. We will be back right after this to talk about the rest of the IPL and have a discussion about India women's cricket as well. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. I always forget to say this at the front of the show, DJ, so I'll do it now. But if you're watching us on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel, help spread the word. It's the only way we grow. We love putting these out, but it's more helpful the more you guys can like and subscribe. So done. Check the box. Thank you for indulging me and letting me say that. The IPL continued with, what did you call it? The Bangalore versus Chennai match? You want to tell our listeners your name that you came up with for it?
Illa Clasico,
right? Clash of the 2 big South Indian teams. I mean,
the Kaveri Cup.
Okay, great. Now you're coming up with
the Mahira Trophy.
Did you pre-plan all these? Or you just coming up with all of the
I'm just
Look at this.
speaking.
I'm
it's good, huh?
Anyway, Really, I mean, again, CSK won this one. Devdutt Padikkal found some form. Kohli looked great, made another 50 or so, but fell a little bit short at Sharjah. I think 156 was just not quite enough. And CSK, nobody really kind of stood out single-handedly with the bat. All of them contributed with 25, 30 plus. So pretty clinical victory, honestly. Raina batting at 5, very interesting decision, but obviously they're choosing to play Moeen Ali at 3. Yeah, how do you feel about Raina at 5 really quickly?
Rena's catching well. I don't know. How did he get any runs in this game?
17 of 10, not out. Just finished it, right? By the time he came in, it was a
Just
done day, basically.
I think this is his retirement plan, boss. This is like when you phase a player out. I can't see Rena playing for CSK next year. Sorry, I know it was ended by Chinna and Tala, which was like a good throwback to the
Yeah.
2000s and well, not 2020 2010s, of course. That
Yeah.
2000 early 2000s there was no IPL, but Chinna and Tala ended and it was great. But I can't see them retaining Rena, boss. He's a bit of a spent force, sadly. And thank God Varun is not here, otherwise he would have slit my throat.
I think it's interesting because the team is still doing great, right? So how much we often see this, but players performing badly often get a very long leash if the team continues to win. And on the flip side, players who are not doing badly get dropped and chopped and changed all the time. I mean, like Evan Lewis now the claim was unavailable for selection, but after that Punjab loss, Evan Lewis was, sorry. Yeah. Anyway, there were changes, that a lot of drops, and we've talked about this. I don't want to go on a tangent. I've talked a lot about how bowlers in particular also bear the brunt. But so I can see Raina getting a long leash as long as Chennai is top of the table.
But for me, yeah, in this tournament, yes. But I was thinking more like from next year onwards, after the mega auction.
Yes, that's
So
what it is. You're right.
I think Rena is going to struggle to find a spot in this Chennai squad, and I don't know whether he'll get picked by any IPL franchise because he'll be 38 by the end of the next cycle, right? And maybe he goes in as a senior figure in Punjab Chokers, maybe.
I mean, honestly, a lot of teams have done things like senior mentor type roles. And so maybe, mentor / player, he might get one more season playing, but also kind of transitioning into a mentor coach type role. So we will see. But then we went on to Abu Dhabi. Delhi played Rajasthan. I'm going to be quick on this one again because fairly clinical. Delhi fell a little short, arguably, on runs. The openers didn't do great. Iyer again looked outstanding, made 43. Hetmeyer had a nice little cameo. Pant run a ball, didn't look as good today, but still made 20 plus runs, but 154, which at the innings break, you'd think is a little bit short. But Delhi has the bowling lineup to defend anything this year, it feels like. I mean, to come up with a 33-run victory after only making 154, absolutely brilliant. Rajasthan just couldn't find momentum, and nobody. So this is where Sanju Samson did find his form. Batted kind of right to the end, made 70, but he couldn't hit those boundaries that we'd love to see. He couldn't hit a ton of boundaries that we'd love to see from him because of great bowling by Delhi. And B, nobody supported him. And it's very difficult to chase down 150 plus as a solo knock. So,
and for me, significantly in this, it was that the openers didn't fire and the middle order was tested. Hetmeyer came to the party. All the bowlers contributed, from Avesh to Nokia to Rabada to Ashwin. You saw how pumped Ashwin was after he got that David Miller stumping. It was a beautiful piece of bowling. It
was great.
Was like watching a test match, but in a T20.
It was set up, right?
Great.
There was a setup through the over, and it was lovely.
So
this is what we love seeing from Ashwin, right? And why?
And then Akshar as well. Everybody contributed with the ball. It was a complete performance, and this Delhi bowling lineup just looks awesome. And with the batting firing as well, man, we're just praying.
We're ready for this, right? So that was the first of the doubleheader yesterday, Saturday, at the time of recording this yesterday. And the second one took us to Sharjah, and Punjab played Hyderabad. And again, Punjab put themselves in a little bit of a precarious spot. But this is one of those where we were watching with like, oh my gosh, this is number 7 versus number 8 at the time. And it was a little painful to watch, honestly, right? Punjab gets all out for 100, or not all out, but not even all out.
Someone tweeted the worst thing about Punjab versus SRH is that somebody wins in the end.
Oh, jeez. That's harsh. So harsh. Chris Gale got his opportunity, came in 125 for 7. And this is interesting, DJ, because before this match, I had dropped, I think, in our fantasy league by quite a significant amount. And right after this match on Saturday, I had a nice little comeback. And that's because of one man I chose to choose as an overseas all-rounder. I never usually choose overseas all-rounder, but I had Jason Holder on my side. It is very interesting to hear commentators were talking about how he's had a little bit of a rough patch with the World Cup coming up and with, obviously a lot of international cricket. He had a decent CPL, not great, but Jason Holder needed a big performance. And, again, bats down the order, but also bowls basically, between 3 and 4 overs. And he picks up 3 outstanding wickets, including both openers, right? Mayank and Rahul are the stalwarts of this side. They're the mainstay for this Punjab side. And they both get dismissed by Jason Holder in the same over, actually, 5th over of the match. And then he also picked up Huda later in the innings. So great to see. He made 120. Punjab made 125. You'd think against most sides, that's an easy chase. Hyderabad, of course, said, hold my beer. We're not sure we want to do this one. Warner gets out cheaply early on, first over. Kane Williamson has struggled a little because he also gets out pretty cheaply. Both do Mohammad Shami. And I remember thinking at this point, okay, those of us who questioned Shami's inclusion in the T20 World Cup squad might be, getting told, this might be his way of showing that he belongs in this format too, because it was an outstanding spell. And then almost as the match was right about to be done, Jason Holder comes in with some magnificent heroics, puts up 47. I would tell you this match being 5 runs, being lost by 5 runs was almost like a little bit not quite reflective of the scorecard. It looks like Hyderabad should have lost this by 35 runs. And then Jason Holder's heroics just helped them get close. But of course, Punjab, I think, deserving winners. But how good was it to see Holder at the bottom of the order there?
It was definitely better than seeing the guy who batted, I think, 4 in this game, which is called Flunky Pandey. Man, 13 of 23.
He was batting the
match
situation.
You, as a Flunky Pandey fan, are giving MS Dhoni fans grief.
They only needed to run a ball. I'm not saying he batted great. But okay.
This is 13 of 23. What is the strike rate? You're the match guy. Tell me the strike rate there.
No, first off,
just over 50.
His name is Manish Pandey.
Flunky Pandey.
It's a great nickname that I hate as a fan of the guy, but it's really good.
No, and we also established why you dislike MS, because MS once said something to Flunky while they were batting together. Na?
Yeah, we'll post the link in the YouTube.
We can't put it. It's not family friendly, so we'll
but it's a good line. When you sent that link, I watched it like 8 times because it's just great. It's just great to watch MS yelling at him. But yeah, I mean, honestly, the truth is, Manish Pandey has looked completely out of sorts. The challenge is with this number 8 side on the table, they don't have options. They don't have the depth. They don't really have places they can go. They might try new things now.
This is a team where Kedar follows Flunky. This is like,
it's horrible.
It's
not
race
working,
to the bottom.
Like how bad it is, right? So,
yeah. Anyway, but Jason Holder, like he batted really well, and it was a shame that he couldn't do a Carlos Brathwaite at the end, and because Bishop was on commentary right at the end of it.
Yeah, he was pumped.
And it was the last ball. It was the last ball from Nathan Ellis, who was bowling the last over in his IPL debut. So that was pretty big effort from him. Yeah. I mean, Sharjah, that was for me again the crucial point there. Sharjah with a 120 score. We saw Tewatia and co chase down 220 last year. Yeah. So this is worrying not only for the IPL but also for the World Cup, right?
Yeah, we haven't really talked about it, but in general, much lower scoring week back, right? Some combination of players being a little rusty and bowlers bowling well. And of course, the pitches. The ball doesn't seem like it's coming on the bat quite as easily. So any observation there? It's been interesting. We had 180-ish score, but mostly everything else has stayed quite a lot lower, right?
Yeah, and the teams with the best spinners will do well. You saw Bishnoi bowl really well actually against Sunrisers Hyderabad. You saw Sunrisers Hyderabad themselves bowl pretty well with Rashid Khan and co. So maybe you're going to see the spinners come in more and more. And teams like the Mumbai Indians, where the spin strength isn't as great. You have Chahar, who's a great bowler, and of course you have Krunal, who can bowl spin, but there's not much spin bowling depth there, whereas Delhi has someone like a Lalit Yadav on the bench. You've got Amit Mishra sitting on the bench. You've got options, right? So maybe that is going to start to tell a little bit as the pitches get slower. For me, the worry is more actually what happens to the World Cup if it's going to be played on these pitches as well, because if it's already so slow, maybe it's a different strip. I don't know. But yeah, interesting situation, particularly since Delhi is going to be playing KKR on Sharjah. So I wouldn't expect like I've stacked my team with Gale, Mayank, Rahul, thinking you're going to have a 200 plus score. Maybe it's time to look at the Arshdeeps and the Brars of the world to get you wickets.
Yeah, bowlers have been doing well, especially those who can take pace off the ball. And we saw outstanding bowling performance in the the second match of the doubleheader. But we've one more to cover. So we're at Sunday. We've gone through most of the week, including the match that I forgot we covered before, so I almost covered again. But we're going to talk about the early morning match, 5 a.m. my time, of the doubleheaders. Chennai played against KKR. Really good match. I missed the first little bit of it because it was hard to wake up at 5 for anything other than Delhi. But a really, really good match overall, right? KKR puts up 171 for 6. Great knock by Tripathi again. He looks like he's cementing his space. He's gone from a finisher, kind of lower order, to opener. Now it looks like he's kind of saying that he belongs at number 3. Makes 45. Nitish Rana for the first time looks pretty good. Again, a floater. They've moved him up and down the order. Dinesh Karthik, heroics right at the end. 26 of 11. We've seen 26. He seems to like making 26 because that's a score that's been done well for him. But they end up at 171, which is a good score. Not insurmountable or anything, but a good score. What I thought was really interesting then is Gaikwad and Faf actually looked good. They started strong. Looked like they were going to make this chase a walk in the park. And then, and of course, Moeen Ali as well came in, made a nice looking 30. But then wickets started to fall, right? Narayan picked up 3, Prasid picked up 1, Lockie picked up 1, Varun picked up 1. And the match situation got to a point where it actually looked like it was running away from CSK, right? The consistent fall of wickets, etc. They got to a point when essentially they needed 26, I think it was, of 12. Or 31 of 18, a good over got them from Varun Chakravarti, got them to 26 of 12. They've now lost their 6th wicket. You've got 2 guys at the crease who are brand new because Dhoni didn't last very long. Raina got run out. A lot of wickets had fallen. And then comes the man who who for some reason is always questioned, bits and pieces, all of the above. And he goes 6-6-4-4 to get 22 runs off the Prasidh Krishna over. And of course, if you haven't figured out, I'm now talking about Jadeja. DJ, across all 3 arts, let's call them the arts, bowling, batting, and fielding, and across all 3 formats, T20, ODI, and Test, is there a better all-rounder in world cricket today?
I think it's very close between Jadeja and Stokes.
Maybe Stokes. Stokes is definitely not as good a fielder, but yeah, better batsman maybe. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
but the fact that it's that close is really like we're talking about Ben Stokes.
It's close. I mean, I think Jadeja is a better bowler than Stokes and possibly a better ground fielder, but he fields in different places from Stokes. Batting wise, Stokes bats higher up the order. If Jadeja starts batting 5 regularly in Test matches, who knows? Maybe we'll see the triple centurion in him come out. It's super close, man. I mean. But this guy's batting over the last couple of seasons, Ashwin, it has been an absolute revelation. Like, it started in the season where CSK were doing really poorly, remember? Last season, where they were not batting well, where he got a lot of time in the middle. And that made a huge difference. And he took 37 runs off Hershel Patel earlier in the season as well, if I remember correctly. He just demolished an over from the purple cap holder at the time, who was taking wickets for fun at that stage. And winning the CSK the game as well. Even here, and he did this last year as well. He scored 60 odd in a game. I can't remember against who it was. But I mean, fantastic. Yeah. Like, he's made himself a fixture in all 3 formats. He's keeping Ashwin out of the Test team, for God's sake. Right? And Akshar and Krunal are no longer the contenders for the same spot. They're the same. They do the same stuff, right?
Yep.
Just because he has just stepped his batting game up so much. I mean, he's already a great fielder. He's already a good bowler in limited overs. His batting finishing has just taken a new level in T20 cricket. And it's fantastic. I mean, today's knock, outstanding. Just good for him, good for Indian cricket as well.
It's one of those ones that a team that has momentum and that has been winning just got over the line. Because arguably, by the way, at the end too, Narayan had 4 runs to defend. They ended up being scores were tied with 3 balls left, and they went dot wicket. And then Deepak Chahar came into his first ball and just hit it over the infield and got that run, right? Yeah. So could have gone either way, but CSK's just got this winning momentum and they were able to pull through today.
Yeah, it could have been a champagne super over when Jadeja.
I was ready, man. I was so excited. I was so excited at 19.5 after 2 dot balls and a new batsman. It would have been great. But we didn't have that. And we went to our final match of the week that we're going to cover here. Sunday's evening clash, the doubleheader, Rohit Sharma versus Virat Kohli, RCB versus Mumbai. RCB's, coming off of both teams coming off of just losses since the restart. So both teams needing a win to get some momentum under their belt. Whew, pretty exciting. Virat Kohli comes out, shows some serious intent. And I'll talk about him at the end of this, but ends up with a 50 that started really, really good. We'd call it 30 off the first 18 balls or so, and then slowed down for a run a ball for the rest of it. So wasn't able to capitalize. But credit to the wicketkeeper KS Bharat, who also played a good knock, and then Glenn Maxwell. When Maxwell is on song, he just looks like a different player, man. Like switch hitting over and over, batting some left. As soon as the shorter side of the ground was on his offside, he switched and hit lefty, hit as a lefty. Otherwise, he was hitting as a righty. Made a magnificent 56. Bumrah looked good, but 165 was probably a little bit short, honestly, against a batting lineup of the quality of Mumbai. And then came a familiar tale, right? Rohit and de Kock batted well, good power play, 50 plus runs. And then when they got out, single digit scores for Kishan, Yadav, Krunal Pandya, Hardik Pandya, Karan Pollard, and then all the bowlers, Milne, Chahar, Bumrah, and then Bolt was not out. Mumbai ended up getting all out for just 111, a 54-run victory, an absolute drubbing. But a fantastic bowling spell from a young man who is now basically running away with the purple cap competition. And I'm talking about Hershel Patel. Picks up a magnificent hat trick. Right? I'm going to try to remember. I think the first one was Hardik. The second one was Karan Pollard. And then the third was a bowler in Rahul Chahar, who can bat a little bit. And then came back, picked up a fourth wicket as well. How awesome for Hershel Patel, right? Like what a great accomplishment to get a hat trick in an IPL. Of course, you're going to tell me he's a Delhi guy.
Yeah, but, I was going to start with that.
I know. I could tell
until last season.
Yeah, but how awesome to see a young Indian guy get a hat trick, right?
He's great. I mean, he's had an up and down IPL, man. He's had a crazy IPL. He took loads of wickets. He had that Jadeja over, lost a bit of confidence. And now he's back in the wickets. He's been given a specific role to try and take wickets at the end of the innings. He bowls those slower I think all three of his wickets were slower deliveries and change-ups, right? So, I mean, it shows you the skill to be able to execute it. He kind of reminds me a bit like Bravo, if you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, just in the death overs, using that variation, using the change-up. Yeah. Like he bowls much more slower balls than he does quick balls. And if you're not bowling 140 plus, then the slower ball's a great weapon.
Yeah, and that's what people, I think, have picked up from Bravo and playing with these fantastic players and watching them be so successful in the IPL. I think Hershel Patel, man, he's been one of the discoveries of this IPL. I'm not sure there's the confidence for him to go up another notch, but I think well-deserved his success. They've trusted in him. Along with Avesh Khan, I think he and they've both been the sort of still uncapped success stories of this IPL. I mean, of course, Varun has played a game for India in Sri Lanka by now, so I wouldn't call him an uncapped, although fantasy still calls him uncapped, right?
Yeah, we're still allowed to bring him in for free. But that brings us to a wrap of the IPL. A lot to cover, DJ. I probably didn't stay as close on timing as I wanted, but overall,
you didn't even talk about the 6 of Milne by Kohli. What a shot.
Oh, that was unbelievable, man.
The 6 of Bumrah as well.
And he had a beautiful extra cover drive for 4 also. Like just beautiful. Stunning to see Virat batting well. But at the end of week 1, pretty solid, right? Chennai and Delhi pretty clearly on top. You have to believe they'll both qualify. Something would have to go absolutely, like all results would have to go against either of those sides to not qualify. And Hyderabad's out. So a 5-team tussle for that 3rd and 4th spot. RCB looking pretty safe as well. So lots going on, lots of great IPL action. By the time we come back next, there'll be another, 3-4 double headers. So we'll have 12, 13 games to cover. So I will leave hosting responsibilities maybe to Varun for next week so he can figure out how to be more efficient than me with time. I do want to talk very quickly, DJ, about the India Women Tour of Australia. Australia, I think, had a 26, I want to call it, match unbeaten streak. 26 ODI unbeaten streak.
Yeah, it was 20.
So 26 ODI. So I lost you there for a second, but hopefully that's what you were saying. And it got beaten by India last night, my time. And so while it wasn't the result, obviously you hope to win a series. Australia ended up winning 2-1 for a team that is at the level, at the peak of their powers right now. Absolutely outstanding to see India pull off that win. Honestly, very, very, very close to having a second opportunity at a win as well in that second ODI. So could have gone any either way. Came down to basically the last ball, and India just fell short. But so do you want to walk me through some of the highlights? We had a couple of new players, a new number 3 bat. Mithali looks good. Some great bowling performances. You want to talk me through some of the highlights?
I mean, I think the low light that you mentioned there was the no ball, right? And you just like, what do you make of it? Let's talk through that.
I mean,
that's
again,
that's the controversial point, right? Like, at the end of the day, it makes a difference between the series win and the series loss.
Yeah, so really quickly, it was 8 off 4, became 8 off 3. Because of a no ball over the waist, right? Which was earlier in the over. So 7 off 4 became 6 off 3, 5 off 2 balls, and then became 3 runs needed off the last ball. And then was determined a no ball for being over the waist. And of course, then Australia went on to win. I've seen the images, man. People have taken still picture. It's tough.
There's a question of dip.
Yes.
That is the question.
People have I've seen the physics images where people have drawn the straight lines from the waist where the ball was at the time when it first the batsman. Very, very harsh call. Very,
but
very
it wasn't
difficult.
called on the. How can you call that off the ground though?
I mean, they're allowed to.
Called on the field.
The third umpire is allowed to give an above the waist no ball. You'd think then the more you watch the replays, the more you see that it wasn't a no ball, or definitely wasn't a clear no ball. So I'm trying not to harp on it, but very, very difficult. Very, very harsh to see. Just gutting for one of the legends of the Indian game, Jhulan Goswami. Yeah, arguably.
Yeah, you get redemption in the third ODI.
Of course, but you don't want to be bowling full tosses on the waist or close to the waist to begin with. But anyway, I don't know if you felt differently. It felt very harsh to me, but this is the sport. This is how it goes sometimes.
It felt a bit harsh. It would have. I don't want to make a comment on the umpiring being wrong, but it could have gone either way, honestly, and I wonder whether if the match was played in India, whether it would have gone a different way.
And if it had, let's say if the match was played in India and had gone a different way, would the Aussie media have been in complete uproar for the decision? Yeah. And are we doing enough? Are we making enough of a
are we making enough of a fuss?
Yeah, a fuss. That's the word.
I mean, what's the point? It's done, right? It's upsetting. That's all I can say. But I mean, there were some great performances in that second ODI, right? Let's talk about those. There was Smriti Mandhana, 86 of 94, really nice. Richa Ghosh got 40 odd. Pooja Vastrakar got runs. Deepti Sharma got a few runs. Mithali was run out, which was interesting after all the strike rate chat in the first ODI. That Mithali got run out. But I mean, we should give credit where it's due, right? I mean, Australia lost their wickets, their first 2 wickets for almost nothing on the board. There was Alyssa Healy, who's their big batter. Meg Lanning was out. Elise Perry was out. So at one stage, they were looking at 34 for 3 with Elise Perry back in the hut. Yeah. I mean, you have to give credit to Tahlia McGrath. And Beth Mooney. I mean, Beth Mooney's innings was incredible innings. She opened the batting. She seen the carnage go on around her, and she stayed right to the end. It was just a fantastic. And this is a champion team. 26 ODIs, you just don't win like that on the trot, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, who wins 26 ODIs on the trot in any universe? I don't think even the great West Indian teams would have done that. And then in the last game, man, I mean, India were cruising that. And we've seen that story before in 2017 in the World Cup.
It was too difficult to watch when the collapse started, basically.
Yeah, and we've seen it before. It's a question of not playing enough cricket under pressure, and it brings you back to the same point. If these ladies are playing a women's IPL, they're playing the women's Big Bash, they're playing the 100, and they're consistently put under pressure to close out games, this is not going to happen. It's going to stop happening, hopefully. Right? So it makes that argument again. And I think that's probably what Alyssa Healy was saying at the end, saying they should have cruised the game. And that has been taken very badly by people in the media, saying she's sledging us. But fair enough. Maybe she is sledging you. And it's a multi-format series, so there are points up for grabs. like against England, we've lost the ODI series 2-1 again, and they are close matches. It's not like we're not being blown away. We're not being
right
bowled
at
out
the
for
edge,
60.
man. Right there. You're talking about a potential win in that second
It's
ODI, and yeah,
fine
absolutely.
margins,
Very
right?
fine,
It's fine margins. But anyway, it was great. In the end, you had again Australia put 264 on the board in the third ODI, highest score India's ever chased. It would have been the highest score if India had chased it successfully. We've never even scored those many runs if somebody's put more runs on the board batting second. So this was really something out of the ordinary to avoid 3-0. And man, the girls responded, and it was fantastic. You had Shefali getting 56 for her first ODI 50. So congratulations to her. Yastika Bhatia, 21-year-old lefty, got 64. So well done to her. Deepti Sharma hung around for 31. Sneh Rana, man, what a knock. I think you tweeted about
under
that. Was
pressure, man. That was the key, right? It's under that pressure. It was unbelievable. Yeah.
Didn't it give you some like MS Dhoni at his peak type of vibes? Those 3 4s in one over.
Sure. I'll let
It
you
was the
have
main
this
as
one.
well.
I'll let you have this.
It was so good. It was so good. It was just fantastic. And then Julan Goswami, man, like after that no ball situation in the first in the first ODI, she's taken 3 wickets again. I mean, and I tweeted after that, I realized that she's been playing international cricket for longer than Jimmy Anderson.
Yeah, not just 3 wickets, but Meg Lanning and Rachel Hinton, like just great wickets. So yeah.
Yeah, and so it's for her to hit that straight drive for 4.
To win the ODI and break the Australian 26 ODI streak.
It was just great.
So good.
It was just Tuta had 26 streak ka ghamand.
Nice. Great line. Well said,
it was
DJ.
really good.
I can't think of a better note on which to wrap up the content for this podcast. It was great discussion. I know we're a little bit longer than we strive to be, but hey,
As
we normally
always.
we normally do 2 episodes a week. So we did our best to cover. Honestly, I'm pretty impressed with myself. I'll take it. So not complaining today. If you aren't yet playing with us, it's not too late to join the Edges and Sledges Listener Fantasy League.
This is when you say how you're ahead of us, huh?
Lots of great activity. Yeah, I'm not doing great, but I'm better beating you guys. So I'm in number 26 in our league right now, in the Edges and Sledges Fan League. And you can find details on our Twitter and our Discord, etc. We'll also try to post them in the show notes. DJ, you're not that far behind. You're in.
No, but I've used 2 of my boosters.
I haven't used any. I'm worried I'm going to forget. So yes, you're about 300 odd points behind me. You're number 38. And then Varun's right there, right close with you, number 46. So we're actually now all finally top 50. There's 250 plus teams. So it's not bad. Let's see if we can keep pushing us. So really quickly, the teams that are leading the way, Nattu Bhai 11, I think was doing well at the meeting, still at number 1.
And I hope Nattu Bhai gets well soon, by the way. Natarajan himself has COVID.
Yeah, the real Nattu Bhai. I'm assuming this is not the real Natarajan, but you never know.
Maybe Johnny, he's just sitting and playing IPL fantasy with
just with us. That'd be so good. Johnny Blazers is number 2, and then Pull COVID-19, which is a strange name, is number 3. So keep
but
fighting.
Johnny Blazers is still on, huh? Johnny Bairstow is gone, but Johnny Blazers is still going.
Hey man, fantasy is fantasy. It doesn't matter if Bairstow is gone. So that brings us to a wrap. I need to take a deep breath. Lots of good discussion, lots to cover. A couple of exciting matches coming up as well, especially for Delhi and Delhi fans. But for tomorrow, the next match that's coming up is Hyderabad Rajasthan. So not the most exciting maybe, but we'll see how that goes. We will be back next week. As always, again, you can find us at all social media at One Tip One Hand, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. We're now putting these videos on YouTube as well. So definitely like, share, subscribe those, or wherever you get podcasts. This is the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. It has been a delight, DJ, to go through week 1 of the IPL, and I will see you all next week.